The basic idea with this photo seems kind of simple, and in some ways it is. It's a flower and it's got some water on it. How hard could it be? But there's a lot of specific things going on here, some specific choices I made that kind of elevate this beyond what I might have taken years ago. And in fact, what I did take years ago. If I go back and look at my old photos on Flickr, I see photos kind of like this that I'm not as happy with because I didn't pay attention to everything the way I do now. So if you like this photo and you think, oh, this is just a pretty simple, easy photo of I think it's a tulip maybe, I don't know, a flower sticking up through the frame, you're not incorrect. It is a pretty simple, basic photo. But in order to get it to the state it's in, there was a lot of intentional choices that I made as I was composing a shot. This is not, it doesn't look good because it was edited. It looks good. And I think if at most I might have cropped it just like a tiny bit. But if it looks good and if you like it, that's because there was a lot of things I did intentionally when I shot this. So this is at the local Botanic Gardens. I think there was a break in the rain. It had been raining, and I think it actually did rain shortly after this, but there was a break in the rain, so everything was kind of covered in this layer of water and drops. And the light was super nice and even. And I saw this flower, and I wanted to get a shot like this, where the flower was in focus, but then there were other things adding to the scene. But I also wanted to make sure the flower existed by itself. So notice how the flower goes up and to the right between two other flowers. There's flowers on the right of it, flowers on the left that are out of focus. The flower occupies its own space in the frame. Also, the flower is positioned roughly along that left-hand third to half. I didn't want this flower to be filling the frame, like front and center. I wanted it to be up on that third, but reaching diagonally into the center of the frame. And then I also wanted something complementary on the other side of the frame, which was those green, are they, you just call them leaves? I don't know, like the parts of the flower that are not flowers. And that was an intentional compositional choice. I specifically positioned myself such that this flower would be the subject, but there was these other elements in the frame that were adding additional context. Also, the blade on the left, the green blade that is kind of behind the flower, it's a little out of focus. That's intentional too. I wanted that to be there to kind of add an extra little spice to the photo, where it's not just a flower, it's a flower and this other bit of greenery, and then all this other stuff behind it. I don't like how on the way left, there's a tiny little smidge of pink. I thought about photoshopping that out, but I just left it because I don't think it's that big of a deal. And I think I really just generally prefer minimal editing on photos. I don't like a lot of just alterations, like removing things. Sometimes I will, but most of the time I don't. So I just left that. And in the end, I've got this photo that I'm really happy with. I think it does exactly what I hoped it would do. And it's the result. It's a simple photo, but it's the result of probably, I could accurately say, years of practice and self-reflection in looking at photos to find out what works and what doesn't work.